Welcome to episode 1 of How to Change. I'm Mike Hauk, and I currently serve as the Chief People and Experience Officer at CongruentX. And with me today, I have...
Hi, I'm Robin Cooper, and I'm also part of the CongruentX family. I am a delivery lead, do some design thinking exercises with clients, and help with the operations of the organization.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah, absolutely.
So before we get into why we're doing this and what this is, let's give you a little bit of background on us so you understand why we in particular are excited about this and want to kind of share our experience and our perspective and hopefully get yours as well. Robin, tell us a little bit about your background.
Oh, well, that's a lot. So the majority of my career has been focused in the HR space and people, from talent management, talent acquisition, talent development, also change management. Throughout my career, I've been in a wide variety of industries, from being a one-person show in an HR function to working in a large corporate environment. But I can say that through all of that, I think that I will never be able to call myself a change expert, but I'm definitely have been a part of changes in all of these organizations and have personally felt them individually as well as helped other organizations work through those changes.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah.
I think like Robin, long road to get to where I am today, but one of the things hopefully that you'll pick up that Robin and I have in common is I don't think either one of us will ever call ourselves experts on anything other than maybe trying to learn. And that's part of why we're here today. So my background, did a brief stint in the United States Army. And then when I got out of the Army and went into business, first couple jobs I had were in consulting. At that time, it was government consulting. And then I actually went to work for a financial services firm for about 10 years. Went back to consulting after another stint in financial services. And so at this point, if I look at, unfortunately, I guess now the 35-year career, it's pretty evenly split between working in corporate America in IT and IT leadership positions, as well as being a consultant. And that's both a boots on the ground consultant delivering, as well as leading consulting teams and practices. And that's kind of how Robin and I got back together. I coerced her into coming to join us at CongruentX. And if you follow us at all on social media, you'll see that one of the things when we actually created the company, I'm one of the 4 partners and founders of CongruentX, was that it's not so much about what we do, it's how we do it and our different approach and our different thinking. And even though we don't have a formal change management practice at CongruentX, that's intentional because we believe that change management is baked into everything that we do and it shouldn't be separated. And to Robin's point, we don't believe that there's one way to do change management. And so Robin and I have been chatting about this topic for a while, and we thought, it'd be fun to put something together where we can kind of share our perspectives and our experiences with the audience and hopefully create some engagement, get feedback, get questions, get ideas, get suggestions for what your experiences are around change and what you've seen work or not work. And then fortunately, we've been doing this long enough that we have a lot of friends and colleagues. And so we're going to ask some of them to come join us occasionally on some of these episodes to share their perspectives and their experiences. And we'll have some specific topics, some around specifically change management and some around things like leadership and how that impacts and all kinds of fun topics, or at least in our mind, fun topics. We hope you find them as fun topics. So that's kind of the why are we doing the show. Before we dive into that, kind of tell you what's going to come on upcoming episodes and things that we're thinking about and ask for your feedback and ideas and suggestions, I thought let's start by just Robin and I each explaining to the audience what we perceive change management to mean or to be. Ladies first.
Oh, great. Thank you. So for me, change management does not start when the change has been implemented. So you're not managing the change, whatever that change is, whether it's technology or some other big effort that the organization did, or maybe even change within your family and your personal life. Whatever that thing is that you're changing, the management of it doesn't start once you've put that change into place. It starts it way before, during the planning process and involving people and making sure that you're taking them along the journey with you as much as you possibly can. It's a transition. And it's a slow transition. It's not something that can be done very quickly. It's not a list of things that you do and you check the box and okay, I did this, I did this, I did this, and it's going to be successful. It's a transition. It's slow and it's individualized. It's very different from one organization to the other. There's components of change management that are important to make sure that you're keeping you're working on as part of the process, but how you approach them, what you do, the tactical things that may be done are very different from organization to organization, and it's also different based on the individuals in that organization. How you communicate to one person may be completely different than how you communicate to another on that same team. You may need to get the same message across, but how you do it and how you deliver it may have to be very different. And so it's not prescriptive, it's not a one size fits all, and it takes almost more effort to manage the change than to implement the change itself.
Amen.
Mike, you're laughing.
Amen. I think, as is typical, Robin and I tend to be like-minded in a lot of ways, although we're two very different people. But I think if I kind of recap what you said and put it in my words, to me, when you talked about kind of before the change occurs, to me, kind of there's three main constructs that I think about when I think about change. And number one is awareness, and that is, even if I'm trying to change my personal behavior, if I want to create a new habit, I have to be aware of what that is and why I want to change it, and everything else. But the second part is that it's almost impossible to have a change that doesn't impact somebody else in your life, whether it's personal or whether it's at work. And so if you're making a change for yourself, again, going back to a habit or something, and that's going to impact your family or your friends in any way, shape, or form, you kind of should communicate what you're doing and why. Hopefully you get some support and some help in doing that. But at a minimum, if your behavior is going to change and you don't tell people that, they're going to wonder what's going on. So to your point, why not preemptively start communicating about what that change is and why you're doing it and what you hope to achieve and those kind of things. If you bring that to business, it just gets to a massive scale in terms of if I'm trying to change an organization, it potentially impacts every single person at the organization.
No matter
Different.
what level.
Exactly. And different people react to change different ways. And so that communication, that explanation of what's being changed and why, and helping people be prepared for the change leads to, okay, now that we're ready to make the change, again, to your point, if it's something small and personal like a habit, if I decide that I'm going to stop doing something or start doing something, that's a light switch. I can do that pretty quick, right? But if we want to make a change in an organization, that impacts a lot of different people in a lot of different ways. And so even though there's a time where you're going to start the change and there's a time where maybe you think this particular change is complete, that's typically a much longer duration. Now, it doesn't have to be years, but it's not typically going to be, we're going to have a half-hour call, and after that half-hour call, the change is done, right?
Yeah.
And so that to me is the critical piece of change management for business is that execution of the plan to get from point A to point B, realizing that A, things are going to happen along the way that we weren't prepared for and that we didn't plan for. And
Yep.
secondarily, most businesses, and I would argue to some extent, whether it's perceived or acknowledged or not, all businesses are really constantly changing. Because if
Yeah.
you're in business, you have customers. And so there's a dependency on your customers. There may be a dependency on vendors. There may be a dependency on partners. All of those things factor into what change means to your organization.
Hmm.
And that's, again, kind of going back to why we think it's important to talk about and we
Yeah.
think it's important for people to think about. And it's interesting because our experience is that we don't think organizations typically do a good job of change management.
Right.
And that's why we want to share our opinions and perspectives and just get people talking about it. Okay?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And if, I always say you can have a plan, you can prepare and think through and think through 10 things that could happen to you during that plan, and it's usually that you didn't plan for. And so you have to be nimble. You have to be able to pivot and be able to go in a different direction, whatever you need. So great to have a plan, but also know that, there's this thing out there that could happen that you're never even going to be prepared or think about, and you need to be able to be flexible to adjust to that as well.
I'm sure I've shared this with you before, Robin, but I'll share it with the audience as well. And hopefully it's not a misquote, like so many people things are in this day and age of the internet. But I heard that Mike Tyson, the boxer, once said that everybody has a plan until they get punched in the face.
Yep.
And I thought that was a great way of putting it, right? It is plans are great. Plans are important. You need to have a plan, but you also have
Yeah.
to understand that very rarely does a plan go exactly as you planned it. That there are other factors that impact that plan, and that's
Yep.
a pivotal
Doesn't mean
point.
you failed. Doesn't mean you
Absolutely not.
failed at the plan.
Absolutely not. Great point. Thank you. So now that we've talked a little bit about ourselves and why we're here and what we're hoping to accomplish with the platform, let's kind of talk about some of the things that we're thinking about doing future episodes on, and I won't talk specifically about any guests yet because we have to work out those logistics and timing and everything else. But we wanted to share what we were thinking with you, the audience, and then hopefully once we get this up and out and posted, and folks get a chance to watch it, that we get some comments and some feedback and hopefully some suggestions on things that you'd like to see us talk about on future episodes. Again, it's just a platform, and we're here to share, but we're also here to listen and learn. So please don't be shy with your comments and input. Robin, what are you thinking about specifically that you want to talk about on upcoming episodes?
I think I want to talk about what change means to an individual and what it elicits within them. So, a lot of times we look at it from an organizational level, how we need to manage the change, but it really goes down to the individual level. And you can go through the steps and actions of managing the change across the organization. But if you have key individuals within your organization that are not on board, don't feel like they've been included, don't feel like they've participated, then they can derail the change as much as the whole organization not being ready for it. So, talking about when there's a change coming, how that individual feels about it and how they react to it, and how you can recognize that and spend the time with that individual. I equate the word change to fear. Usually it's different levels of fear that it evokes within an individual. I think about myself, right? So I'm one of those people that love to have a plan, right? But I know that over my years of being in HR and my just my career, you got to be able to pivot, right? So I really like change now, but I only like it if I feel like I'm in control. So I will only take risks as long as I'm in control. That's my whole little mantra, right? So how do you help calm that fear in the individuals and help them understand and feel like they're a part of the change and that they don't need to be afraid of it? So I really would like to spend some time on how you help individuals move through that fear, and that fear changes over time. It could be, am I going to lose my job? Is my job going to completely change all on its own? I don't know what's going on, so that means the absolute worst for me. Um, there's lots of things. So that's one that I really want to spend some time on and help people understand how they can work individually with people to get their buy-in and their engagement and help the individual feel safe, involved, and then eventually have them feel accountable to making sure that the change is successful.
Awesome. Thank you.
Mhm.
Um, One comment on that, just again for kind of clarification, and maybe to ask you to elaborate a little bit, and then I'll talk about some of the things that I want to talk about. So, and again, this is Robin and I know each other very well. We've known each other for a long time now, and some of the things that we've talked about outside of the show that I want to bring some background on for the audience or prospective audience. Um, I don't know exactly what the population of the world is, and it'll change by the time I say that, right? But if you assume that there's roughly 8 billion people on the planet, to some degree, every one of those 8 billion people is different. Every one of those 8 billion people has a different perspective. It's impossible for us or anybody else to give a prescription or a formula that's going to work for everybody. We have to speak in generalizations. We'll speak in generalizations, again, based on our experience, as well as some of the other tools and programs that Robin and I know and have utilized in our professional careers, um, to kind of group people together and see, some similar behavior, some similar reactions and trending. And so I think we're going to talk about some of those as well, Robin, in terms of,
Yep.
how to help you understand somebody else and look at things from their perspective and how to really be empathetic to them and their situation, um, in order to maybe lessen that fear and that anxiety of change. Is that fair? Um, so with Robin's focus on kind of the individual, I'm going to come from the other perspective. And again, hopefully some of what we talk about on here you can use in your personal life. But at the end of the day, um, we're going to focus on organizational change and business change, right? And so I want to focus on some topics around, how to build change as a part of your organization and how to have kind of a discipline about change and change management and everything else. And again, there's no silver bullet, there's no formula, there's no blueprint for change, because not only is every person different, but every organization is different. And so to me, part of that is how do I determine how my organization perceives change, and which different departments or pockets within the organization are better or worse with change, and how to deliver that message. And then most importantly, how to ensure that the changes that we want to make are purposeful changes, and at the end of the day, as a business, that the change is made for the benefit of the business because it's positive change for the people that it's impacting, right? If you want to make a change for the business and you say I want to double my revenue next year, but your plan for change is going to make life miserable for all of your employees, that's probably not a great plan, right?
Mm-mm.
So I want to measure those two things and balance those two things and talk about things to be aware of and things to consider as you're planning for your business goals and outcomes, and in a way to leverage change to help you mitigate that fear and uncertainty that comes with change, and use that as a positive catalyst for your organization. Fair enough?
Fair enough. Sounds
Any
good.
any other topics that you have right now on your mind? I know more will come.
No, I think
Okay.
I think it's having those conversations, and I think that really does hit both aspects, the organization and the individual, and it's going to be unique and it's going to be fluid, and just having the awareness and then having the flexibility to be able to apply it differently in different situations, I think is the biggest part of it.
Perfect. And again, we have a plan. We now have a platform. We're going to try this. We can guarantee that it's going to evolve over time. But the most important thing for us is that you either find it beneficial or tell us why you don't find us beneficial, or provide topics or ideas or suggestions that you'd like to hear us or potentially a guest come join us and talk about. So anyway, thanks for your time today. And
Yeah,
hopefully you'll see and hear from us soon.
absolutely.
Thanks,
Thanks,
Robin.
everyone.
Bye bye.
Thank you, Mike. Bye.